This week, I'm going to be reading 2 books that I've been avoiding. Hi friends and readers, welcome back for another reading vlog. I'm pretty much doing a reading vlog once a week, which means I'm reading 2 books in a week typically. And this week I decided to do the concept of reading books that I've just been avoiding. Now there are a few different reasons why I've been avoiding these books. One of these books I've just been avoiding not because I don't like the series, but because it's the last book in the series and it has felt a little bit daunting to pick it up as one of those longer sports romances. And then the second book is because I picked up the first one. It's young adult. It really wasn't my favorite, but it's only a duology, so I really need to finish the second one just to say that I finished that series. I do try to read each week in a way that gets books off my TBR. One of these books has been on there for a long time. The other one was a more recent publication date, but still been on there for a few months. So this week we are tackling both of those so we can open up our TBR to all of the new releases coming in March because there's a ton. And also by reading both these books I've been avoiding, I'm gonna knock off 2 series off my TBR. Without further ado, we're gonna get into the reading this week. I've actually already started the first book. I am 111 pages into Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforde, the final book in the Windy City series. I'm gonna catch you later once I read a little bit more to update you on how I'm feeling and if I should have avoided it all this time. My goodness, Victoria from how many days ago? It's Friday. Victoria from Monday or Tuesday, I can't even remember. What were you thinking? Why were you avoiding this book? You all, I have started Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforde. And the whole concept of this video is reading books I've been avoiding, which Rewind It Back is the final in the Windy City series. This is an interconnected sports romance series, and I have been avoiding Rewind It Back for a few months. I don't even remember how long ago I finished the 4th book in this series, and I am so mad at myself, but also glad that we're doing this video because I finally picked it up and I shouldn't have been avoiding it this whole time. Spoiler alert, I am loving it. All that to say, I started this book I think on Monday. It is now Friday. I haven't updated you in quite some time. I don't think I've filmed a lot of the reading I did. I had read up to 100 and something pages before I even started this video for last week's video actually, as a part of reading based off how many dice rolls I did. So I started it and then I really wanted to pick it up for the concept of this video. Here we are. It's a few days later. I'm on chapter 29, page 250, which is 66% of the way through the book. I am reading it on Kindle. It is available through Kindle Unlimited, like the rest of the Windy City series, which I absolutely love. It's worth a monthly subscription if you're going to read all 5 books, especially 1 or 2 within a month, you get your monies back. And I've also been listening to it a little bit on my drives to work. I only work 2 days in person a week and I have a little bit of a long drive. So you can find Rewind It Back on Spotify Premium if you have any of your free hours for the month. Let's talk a little bit about the series before we jump into Rewind It Back. The Windy City series starts with book 1, which is a hockey romance. My cat's meowing. Hockey romance. Book 2 is basketball. Book 3 and 4 are baseball. And now Rewind It Back, book 5 goes back to hockey. Same team we met in book number 1. As I've read the series, I've increasingly rated it higher each time. Books 1 and 2 were not my favorites. Book 3, I really loved Single Dad. Book 4 got even better with Isaiah Rhodes. And now we're at book 5 and I can't see myself rating this any lower than the last ones. Here's where we are with the quick synopsis so far. This is, like I said before, hockey romance, but let's be real, there's really not that much hockey involved in this. I feel this one is more character driven than sport driven. And to be honest, why was I even avoiding it? I don't know, something about finishing up the series, being a little bit nervous to finish it out, hoping that it would be better than the rest. And then also I remember seeing it in stores and it being a chunky copy of a book, and that was a bit intimidating. Sort of my motivations to do it now, even though I have been avoiding it since it's been been out for the last few months is that I'd like to also start other hockey series or sports series, and it's hard for me to not get them confused if I'm reading the interconnected series amongst each other. I'd like to start the Chelsea Curto series. I think that's like DC Stars or something. I'd like to read the Heated Rivalry books, but I wanted to finish up Windy City, and I just finished Vancouver Storm, so here we are. Chichi, come here, come here. Man, my cat just keeps meowing. Oh wait, and also a new spin-off I think is coming, or no, not I think. I know it's coming. Next month, Liz Tumford is putting out another book that follows the coach in these books 3 and 4. The coach that we see there, we get to see more in Liz Tumford's new book. So I wanted to wrap this up now so I could read that book without feeling obligated to finish the series, if you get what I mean. So book number 5, we are dual point of view. We're following Rio DeLuca and Hallie Hart. And boy, Rio DeLuca. I thought initially from my impressions of Rio in books 1 through 4, because he does tend to pop up in some cameos since the beginning of the series, especially book 1, and then more in friendships, books 2, 3, and 4. I thought he was just gonna be this funny boy and the comedic relief of the friend group, but I know so much more about Rio now. He's on this hockey team that we got introduced to back in book 1. And then Hallie. Hallie is an interior designer, works for a bar. She's trying to make ends meet while she is interning as an interior designer. She had to move to Chicago, which is where we are based out of, for her job, and she accidentally moved next door to her ex-boyfriend who hasn't talked to her in 6 years. There's definitely bad blood there, we just don't know what. Quite frankly, I'm 66% of the way through the book and I am just now learning why there's kind of some bad blood. So Rio and Hallie haven't talked in years. Now they live next to each other, and Rio just accidentally hired her to fix up his home, in the interior design aspect of his home, which is a project that's going to take months of him and her being in the same place. So I am going to keep reading to see how these childhood best friends turned enemies slash never talk to you again end up finding themselves at the end of this book. I will update you when I'm finished. It is now Saturday, it's about 11:30 a.m. and I just finished Rewind It Back in the Windy City series. It is so nice to finally say that I'm done with this 5-book series. And just off the bat, I'm gonna say it's a 4.25 star rating for me. I was somewhere in between a 4-star and a 4.5 star, and I thought, hey, this rating is for no one else but me, so I can rate it a 4.25. Because why not? Without the concept of this video, I don't know when I would have picked up this book, and I'm so glad I did. I didn't have to pay for it, and I really enjoyed it. It came out of left field. I really have been truly avoiding it for the last few weeks. I was so surprised that I like Rio as much as I liked Rio in this story. The title itself, Rewind It Back, I really love what Liz Tumford did with the symbolism of the title and tying it back to Rio and Hallie's lives. And then the boombox, I feel like we know Rio from all of the other books because of the boombox, so I really appreciated that we got to learn a little bit more about that and why Rio carries it around all the time. And I really love the storyline with Rio and the other girls from all the other books, him being like best friends with them and going to girls' night. Found family in this series, and especially how they wrapped up the found family in the final book and the epilogue of this book, I thought it couldn't have been that much better. I think that with the Windy City series, if you're someone out there who has never started it, you can trust what people say when they say keep reading if you're starting with books 1 and 2. It really does get better by books 3, 4, and 5. I was having a good time reading the series, and I'm glad that I stuck with it. And it's an interconnected series, so you can jump around if you want to. You don't have to start in order. You just might miss out on some of that found family. And then the last thing I'll say is we know that there is a spin-off coming with the coach from book 3 and 4, but also I feel like Liz Tumford was hinting at maybe another series, maybe another sports series with some of the characters in this final book that we get to see. Like Hallie moved next door and she was roommates with the girl's brother who owned the house next door, and I feel like we might get a series where we follow those siblings I don't know, we'll see. Since it's Saturday, I'm going to go ahead and start the next book that I have really been avoiding. It is a duology series, and I read the first book in the duology back in September last year. October, November, December, January, February. So we're going on nearly month 6 of not wanting to finish this duology. I'm actually quite nervous about it, and I'm scared it could throw me into a book slump that I don't want to go into, but we're gonna persevere because that's why we're doing this video. I'll talk to you later once I've started that a little bit. Hello. We are now on Monday of this reading vlog. I believe I started it on, I don't even know when I started this reading vlog. We are in book number 2 of books I've been avoiding, and that book is Rebel Witch. Now that I say that, I don't even know or remember who this series is by, so let me look. While I look at that, we are on page 144 of Rebel Witch. This is 32% of the way through chapter 22, and this is a dual point of view book. Yes, this book is by Kristen Cicerelli, I believe is how you pronounce that last name. Rebel Witch is a part of a series that is a duology. This is the Crimson Moth series. Book number 1 is called Heartless Hunter, and honestly, perfect that there's a moth on a picture right behind me, because Heartless Hunter has a moth that is so cute and pretty directly on the cover. You probably have seen this cover before, and you may have even heard about this series. It is a young adult, I believe, fantasy romance series about a Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch. The titles, quite frankly, give away exactly what the duology is about. Now, I've been avoiding this book for a few reasons, one of which is that I read the first book, Heartless Hunter, back in September. It is now March, so it has been a few months. If that tells you anything about me avoiding it, I tend to want to read a series, whether not interconnected series really, but a series that follows from book 1 to book 2 back to back. I have the most pleasurable experience reading like that, and putting months in between a book is a good indicator that maybe the first book was not my favorite. I know. I rated Heartless Hunter a 3 stars, so that's really not bad, and I think the reason why is because I am just not that big a fan of young adult fantasy, I have come to realize, and that tends to just make it not my favorite of all series or books if it is young adult fantasy. But I'm really trying to get series and books off my TBR that have been on there for a few months, and by finishing the last book in the Windy City series, we knocked off that series, and now by finishing Rebel Witch, we will knock off the Crimson Moth series. The good thing about this week has been that both books are on Kindle Unlimited. I read the first one on Kindle Unlimited, and now book number 2, Kindle Unlimited. We are getting our subscription worth this week. And I really don't want to spoil much about book number 2 by giving you a summary of it. Or no, that would in fact spoil book number 1 by sort of leading you to know what's in book number 2. So I'm really just going to recap what happened in book number 1. Since I read that a few months ago, I did go look up a review and summary of all the things that happened, just so I could jog my memory and feel good about going into book number 2. TikTok is really helpful for that. I watched a recap video. I think that book number 2 came out last year, so there wasn't a ton of stuff that would have spoiled book number 2 for me. So Heartless Hunter, it is a hunter. Their name is Gideon. They basically live in this society where witches used to rule, essentially. However, there was a case of too powerful of witches, and they revolutionized to get rid of these witches. So now in their society, people hunt witches. There is a specific guard whose whole purpose is eliminating witches, and Gideon is a part of that guard. So if you even talk about witches, you know a witch, are a witch, you're gonna get cut off. And then we have our Rebel Witch, who is Rune. Rune is the Crimson Moth, which is the name of the series, the Crimson Moth series. The Crimson Moth essentially is someone who the rest of society is trying to figure out who their identity is. It's someone who is rescuing witches who've been captured but have not been ask you know what yet. It is someone who is also a witch themselves and has covertly been operating basically an underground system to help witches out. And then these two people figure out each other, meaning the Crimson Moth, which is Rune, is on to Gideon. She is going to talk to him just so she can get intel about all the other witches that he may have captured or know about being captured. And then Gideon is suspecting that Rune is the Crimson Moth, so he's going to try to have a relationship with her to use her for that same exact intel and to rule out whether or not she is in fact the Crimson Moth or not. So it feels very cat and mouse, very enemies, and I think that book number 1 ends in a specific way that picks up straight on in book number 2, which is where we are now. I will say 30+% of the way into book number 2, I'm feeling better. So I'm hopeful. I'm not so adamant that I should have been avoiding it for so long, even though I would have said that before I started this video, which is good news. This video concept is doing great this week for me as far as liking what I'm reading. So we'll persevere and see how we wrap things up with the Crimson Moth series, what happens with Gideon and Rune moving forward. Talk to you later. Hello. I think I talked to you yesterday on my lunch break. I worked the rest of that day, read last night on my Kindle, and was using my Kindle reader holder and my clicker so that I could be hands-free. It really is a lethal combo because I feel like the clicker and the hands-free holder of the Kindle allows me to read so quickly on my Kindle. How many times did I just say Kindle? But I also think that it puts me to sleep. If I do that, I'm immediately falling asleep. I had to go back to the chapter I finished with last night to make sure I actually comprehended what I read. But now it's Tuesday approaching the evening and I have finished Rebel Witch. Oh, guys. Okay, I don't even know where my Kindle is. Give me just a second. Here it is. I finished it on my Kindle today, really not that long ago. So it's really still fresh on the brain. The ending is still really fresh on the brain. This felt like a long book, I won't lie. Let me tell you how many pages it was. It was 455 pages. Now I know that this is a duology, so you sort of had to wrap up the series all in under 2 books, but it did feel long. And now I can remember some of those feelings I had on why I was probably avoiding book number 2. However, I'm gonna rate it, just because I felt like it in this reading vlog, 0.25 more than I did book number 1. So this is gonna be a 3.25 star rating, just because I can. Again, I think what I'm coming to conclusions on, besides the fact that I know I don't like young adult, is that I also may not like enemies to lovers. For me, it is so hard. Well, let me take that back. I think I liked this book. Love. I don't think I loved this book. Not that I didn't care, but I didn't care. I just wasn't very invested in these characters, and the idea of enemies to lovers, especially in a concept where you have your rebel witch and you have your heartless hunter, you are on such opposite sides of the spectrum, and I don't know all the in between to bridge that gap, if it makes sense, if you're enemies. You know what I mean? So that is a me problem. It's very hard for me to wrap my head around being such stark enemies in a way that it is literally life or death for all the nature of your relationship, and then to turn it around in the last book, essentially. Spoiler. Basically, what I'm saying is, this book is just written of miscommunication and lies. But if you like that enemies to lover trope, then this is a series that you probably would really enjoy. If you don't like miscommunication, then you certainly wouldn't enjoy this, in my opinion. What I did really like about the book was the twists and turns along the way. I am not normally someone who guesses these twists and turns or the plot twists, things that are thrown in, especially in a duology, and I really didn't guess them until it was about the chapter before. I thought, oh, I remember this. This was alluded to earlier on, and this is probably what's about to happen. So part of that was nice to be out of the know, but also know that the author left me a trail to follow. So while predictable, also still fun. I think that's it. I'm gonna leave you with the recommendation of this series if you like young adult, if you like enemies to lovers, if you like young adult fantasy, romantasy, whatever you want to call it. And I'm really glad that I did this video. I got 2 series off of my TBR, and I can now move on to 2 books that I've been anticipating, maybe my most anticipated books of the year in the romance category, because today is their release date and they delivered at my door not that long ago. So stay tuned for next week's video where I read Haley Pham's debut novel and No Matter What by Kara Bastone. That's all. Bye for now.